What up, YouTube? All right, so this is the video came out a few years ago about Ti, and he had some quote unquote controversial statements in regards to how he viewed protecting his daughter and how he would go to the gynecologist in order to check his daughter's hymen to make sure she was still a quote unquote virgin. So I'm gonna let them talk about it, and then I'm gonna chime in, and we're gonna talk about it in detail what the scriptures say about it.
Recently, rapper T.I., or Tip as I know him, made some highly controversial comments about his daughter's virginity, which caused a firestorm. Today, Tip and Tiny are coming to the red table to publicly address his comments for the first time. Hey, what's going on? What's up? What's up, bro? I'm well. I just found out it was 90 degrees here today. All right, I'm gonna let y'all go. I just wanted to say hi. Oh, so you're not gonna do?
I'm gonna skip up a little bit.
This Tip. What the hell's going on? Now, if I may say in my defense, now, and go ahead. Now, I came here for the tough stuff. No easy ride for me, baby. Well, then you know what? Let's just start with what's in the headlines right now, and there's this Hymengate. The uproar all started after T.I. gave an interview on parenting, specifically about his 18-year-old daughter, Deja, whose mother is singer Miss Nico. So have you had the sex talk with your daughter? Not only have we had the conversation, we have yearly trips to the gynecologist to check her height. Oh. From Gloria Steinem to Planned Parenthood. The backlash was immediate and huge. Founder of the Me Too movement, Tarana Burke, had this to say.
Gloria Steinem also, she was a front man for that controversial book back came in the late, I think, 1970s when the Black feminist movement was going on. She was a front person for Gloria Steinem. She was a CIA operative allegedly, but if you look that up, it's not really um, not that hard to find. But she was a CIA agent to promote feminism in the Black community, so-called Black community.
That opens up this can of worms that I don't think that he really was prepared to open up. We're talking about this long tradition of checking the purity of women's bodies. And I think that a lot of men have this idea that being a good father is protecting your daughter's virginity. But it's so problematic in so many ways. It lends itself to this notion that men own their daughters.
Okay, so if you don't think that men own their daughters, would it be controversial if the mother checked her daughter? Because I don't think it's a problem that if the mother is doing things, because it's almost implied that the mother owns the child, but it's implied that the father does not own the child. So I think the problem is more there was a strong so-called Black man who was doing that rather than the mother, because I think that the problem is that they have a problem with masculinity. Anything that is seen as traditional of keeping your daughter a virgin until she becomes married is seen as demonized, is seen as toxically masculine. All right. So yeah. So in regards to property of children, the children are belong to the parents. They belong to the father specifically because he brought them into the world. He's feeding them. He's providing for them. So the children should live a life that is deemed acceptable for their father because he's the reason that they're even here. So they should live a life to try to please their father. I don't see any controversy with that statement that I just said. But again, they have a problem with men having authority over his children. So they're slowly telling men that you don't have authority over your child. And they're right. The children belong to the state, and they're really given to the mother as a proxy leader just to house them until they reach their maturity 18 years old, and then they become part of society. But the man, you really don't have authority over your child.
Author and professor of sociology at Georgetown University, Michael Eric Dyson shares his opinion.
Being a father, a Black father in particular, is not the easiest thing in the world.
And a guy like T.I. believed that the predatory behavior of other men who were like you when you were younger, the guys you knew were doing dirt, must be protected against. But let's be honest, T.I. was attempting to exercise control, leverage his authority as a patriarch on his daughter in terms of protecting her. But there's a difference between control and education. If she got pregnant, people would say, how did you let your daughter get pregnant so early? And it would look like a failing on his part. But the answer to that is not policing your daughter's body.
They love to say that policing the daughter's body or policing a woman's body. This is his daughter. Like this is his daughter. This is not just some random woman out here. You know, this person looking like a female KRS-One. She's trying to act like T.I. is just policing any random woman. This is his daughter. He has authority over his daughter. That's why it's like, you know, brothers got to understand that in this society, they don't really want you to have authority over your child, especially your daughter. They want your daughter to be a whore. They don't want your daughter to be an upstanding, righteous woman. They want her to just be for the streets. They really want her to just, you know, just really throw her vagina around. They think that is empowering. They think that's liberating. So
So I would love to understand better what he really thinks about this. I just want to give you a moment to say what you feel like you'd like to say.
Firstly, I came to clear up any misconceptions that have been surrounding how we interact and parent and what is appropriate and inappropriate. I think all of this surrounds a conversation that I was having in a very joking manner when asked, how do I deal with parenting in this day and age? And so I just began to, you know, from a place of truth, I began to embellish and exaggerate. And I think that a lot of people kind of like took it extremely literal. Because if you put any of my reputation, like who I am as a father, who I've been, I honestly thought people knew me better than that.
Well, there's some of us that know you, but there's a lot of people who don't. Yeah. Do you understand the sensitivity of it all? Really?
I did not.
Do you understand it now?
Oh, I understand it now. Yes, I do. Absolutely. However, my intentions, I think, have been terribly misconstrued and misconceived.
Right.
Let me go set this record straight. Never said I was in any exam room. That is an assumption.
Right.
That is a falsity.
Got it.
I never said that it was being done present day.
Right.
As an 18-year-old.
Yeah, she was 15 and 16 years old at the time.
And I never said that her mother wasn't present.
Right.
Her mom was present
They
every
went
time.
together.
Right.
You know, he was just, you know, most fathers don't go, but he was just present.
Right.
Yeah.
And he didn't make the doctor's appointment.
No,
It was already, you know, appointment.
And all of these things, all of this narrative, this false narrative has just been sensationalized.
So at the time, her mother welcomed your presence and your daughter did too?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
like I said, they don't really believe that the father has a right over the child, or especially over the daughter. They think that the mother has sole control over the children. So, of course, they're surprised that the father will even want to be a part of those examinations or even a part of their child's life like that. Because in this society, they view a man's purpose is really just to be a quote unquote sperm donor. They don't want a strong man with a backbone to really lead his household, especially in the so-called black community. So Ti, he's fighting against a program that they're psychologically, a war and attack on the men. They're trying to break men down psychologically to um, relinquish a lot of their natural instincts to want to protect their children and especially their daughters.
And that was never any objection.
Right.
She did have a problem with me talking about it, however.
Right.
And I understand that.
Yes.
And I'm incredibly apologetic to her for that.
Yeah.
To her.
Yeah.
To you, sweet baby Deja. Not to any of these other strangers and any of these weirdos who, just kind of toss lies around for fun.
Yeah.
She understands my intentions and she knows who I am. She knows who I've always been.
Right.
And I think that allows a certain level of understanding. I mean, it's just the outside, the noise is distracting, is confusing. It's hurtful. It is. It's hurtful and embarrassing. She was horrified.
Well, I definitely understood why she would be, feel like, it was personal to her.
Right.
Dacia's a quiet child. She doesn't talk a lot. She doesn't, you have to nudge things out of her.
Right. Because we as women understand how, especially for a young girl, how delicate and what it exposes about her very private,
especially to a father,
intimate life. I didn't get it. I was oblivious to it. However, I am now sensitive to it for her.
And part of that I understand. That is very sensitive subject in regards to the young female just exploring her sexuality as she goes to puberty. So of course you don't want that to be public knowledge in regards to just social media and just these media outlets. But at the same time, you saw how Jada Pinkett Smith pulled her arms together, said we as women, because she's implying that all women have this culture, they have this sisterhood bond where they have to be on one accord with things. So Ti, he's in the middle of a triangle of liberal black women, and they make it that even though he's with his wife, who's supposed to be his confidant, right, by his the one that holds him down, he's realizing that even his wife is in fellowship with women. He's there, she's not really in fellowship with you. And a lot of brothers, a lot of men are understanding that even though you have a wife or you have women that you believe love you, they side with feminism before they side with you. They side with feminism before they side with their own race. But in general, they side with women with all categories. That's their number one altar that they love to, to propagate and promote.
Yeah. For her. And then all of a sudden when the number two hit the fan and I hadn't addressed it, at her request, I was taking the bullets. And that's not, I don't have a problem with that. I'm fine in the fire. Right. Fine in the fire. Right. There's no problem with that. My daughter said, just let it go. Don't say nothing, just let it go. And I didn't until I had different directives. Okay, go ahead, make it stop. Right. Clear it up. You know what I'm saying? Right. And I would not be here today had I not had those different directives. I'd still be sitting in silence. Right. I want to learn from you. I have 3 powerful, independent, brilliant women, and I want to know what is the purpose and place of a father in this society, because a father like myself who wants to be as involved and as attentive as possible, we could draw the conclusion of we just donate sperm and come pay for things, and we don't really have no say so in how things are done. That's
Exactly. And Ti, he's starting to understand that that is what a man is, his role is in a society. And they will deny it, but that's the case because the men don't have the right, they don't have the authority to rule over their household. In this society, they make a man believe that his only job is to get a woman pregnant and then get the heck out the way. And then pay tribute money every month in the form of child support or spousal support or whatever. Because when Ti made those statements about his daughter going to his OBGYN each year for the checkups and asking a physician to check to see if her hymen was still intact, the liberal black women, specifically the liberal black women, but all the women, they dragged Ti on the internet, calling him a misogynist and toxic masculinity, all that BS. Because in this society, a father is not supposed to encourage his daughter to maintain her virginity. He's actually shamed for doing that. And the girls are encouraged to quote unquote explore their sexuality and to be sluts and whores because they want the child to be raised by the single mother in the television. That increases the chances that this child is just going to be raised to be a drone, i.e., a debt or a work slave who won't question the protocols and the laws that are being passed upon the people because they're just going to be satisfied with the little things that they have. They can just go on trips and vacations, they can eat and have the facade of freedom. A strong man is going to push back. He's going to quote unquote buck up against the system, and they don't like that. And especially in regards to just having ethical standards, they don't like that. They don't want women to be raised into a righteous way. especially based off the scriptures, because all this attack towards the masculine and what they call the quote unquote patriarchy, they're talking about the Bible. It's always a spiritual attack on the Bible because they want to demonize the Bible. They want to outlaw the Bible, which is going to come eventually. That is going to come. Eventually, it's going to be illegal to have a Bible because the Bible is offensive to the powers that be. And they have to outlaw it in order for the people to be what they want them to be, just to be open-minded. All right. So I'm gonna let them talk a little bit, but not too long because this show is so toxic.
It's not true. I don't think that's the case at all. And I don't think anybody has a problem with you being involved in that. I think it was more like, that's so very personal. I don't think anybody has a problem with you protecting your daughter. No, that's not the issue.
It's the hymen.
It's the hymen part of you. And having been a young girl myself, having raised several young women, and realizing that a woman's journey in regards to her sexuality has to be guided.
Exactly. That's what T.I. was doing. He was guiding his daughter to be pure, to be a virgin. Jada Pinkett Smith is not qualified to have this conversation. She is a well-known Hollywood smangout. Everybody has hit Jada Pinkett Smith, from Wesley Snipes to, not before Will Smith. I mean, she's been around, and even before that, before she even was famous. But she's not qualified to have this conversation. She's not the type of mother that knows how to raise a righteous woman. So. This conversation is over her pay grade.
Right? Mostly, I think, by mothers. That's just me personally.
Okay.
But mother, in truly understanding what that journey is, takes her daughter's hand and walks her through.
Okay.
Right? That's how I work that out with Will. There's just certain things about raising a man that I can't know. I would tell him, love your daughter.
Right.
Let me teach her.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
No, don't do that. Of course, the man and the woman have to work together to raise the children. And of course, the mother is going to have a special connection with the daughter because she's a woman. So she's going to be able to teach them things that the man can't do, just the same way the man can teach the boy things about masculinity and manhood that the woman can't do. But at the same time, the father has to be present in both the son and the daughter's life. You can't just leave it all to the mother because the mother, women in general just have a hard time with discipline. They're more lenient in general. And I'm not saying when I say discipline, because we all have mothers who were, a lot of us have mothers who were strict and they disciplined us or gave us, whoopings or whatever. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the type of structure and discipline where it requires self-control in regards to certain morality and spiritual things. Because even though your mother may be strict and tell you, you can't have boys over, you got to be here at certain times, she's not going to understand the importance of having a strict adherence to spiritual beliefs, because she's going to not have that repercussion of that there's going to be a spiritual repercussion or if you continue on this pathway, because the woman in general she tries to avoid accountability. So she teaches that to her child just naturally. It's not even something that they try to do, but it's just how they raise their child. They raise them in the way that they see things. So they try to get out of things by doing little white lies or, saying things that they don't really mean. And the child picks that up. And in regards to, their sexual, just proclivity and their sexual freedom, in this society, the woman is just trained to kind of just be sexually fluid and just be sexually free. And the mother's not really going to understand the importance of that unless you have just a good woman. So there's some good women out here that will teach their child, but in general, the mass general of them, they don't have that sense of spiritual morality, spiritual discipline. So it really takes that father to really guide them. That she says, because if you let the woman guide the child, more likely she's going to raise them to kind of be in touch more with how they feel. And that's why it's like a lot of children, they become quote unquote trans, or they, explore their sexuality, because the mother is allowing that to happen. The father, a strong father, he's going to shut that down, at the start of it. But they call that toxic masculinity. So they're not allowed to do that.
Because there's certain sensitivities.
Okay.
That you just don't understand.
That you might not understand and have, just because of your relationship in the world is different than a woman's relationship.
I respect that completely.
Yeah. Like I knew when you talked about it, because I live with a man that loves his daughter.
Right.
In the conversations I've had to have with him in regards to what is protecting her, what is educating her, what.
And like I said, Jada Pinkett Smith is not qualified for this conversation. She has Will Smith wrapped up around her finger, as we saw with the Oscar fiasco. Will Smith doesn't have a backbone. Will Smith is a nice guy, so he's easily taken advantage of by his wife. We don't need more nice guys. We need real men in this society. And Ti, he's struggling with the concept that he feels that he naturally has, and what he's being taught. He's being psychologically manipulated right now in this conversation. So, but it was a good conversation. I'm gonna talk about a little bit more on the outro. All right. So right here we have Ecclesiasticus chapter 26. This is a very good chapter. Talks about the woman, but specifically, it's going to talk about your daughter, and around verse 10. So let's go down. All right. Ecclesiastes chapter 26, verse 10. It says, "If thy daughter be shameless, keep her in straitly, lest she abuse herself through overmuch liberty." So saying, if your daughter is, she doesn't know how have proper self-control and propriety. She's so overly free. You have to be careful. She'll abuse herself. She'll injure herself because she has too much freedom. You have to protect your daughter from freedom, because a lot of young girls, they don't know about self-control. If you give them an inch, they'll take a mile. So you have to really have to give them fences, give them boundaries, so they don't injure themselves, because they will injure themselves, or they will, you know, give them their sexual attention to an older young man, or a boy that's closer to their age. They will try to explore their sexual freedom, and give their virginity to a man that honestly doesn't deserve it. So verse 11, watch over an impudent eye and marvel not if she trespass against thee. So even if you are a strong father figure, she may still, she still may be, she may still sin against you or trespass against you. Don't be surprised if she buck up against your authority, or she be disrespectful towards you. Verse 12, she will open her mouth as a thirsty traveler when he has found the fountain, and drink of every water near her. By every hedge she will sit down, and open her quiver against every arrow. Now, right here in verse 12, the Bible is using colorful and metaphorical language about how big of a hole your daughter is going to be if you give her too much freedom. When it says she's going to be thirsty and open her mouth as to different fountains, that means she's going to have a lot of different penises in her mouth. Just being honest. I mean, this is reality. I'm not trying to be graphic or anything. I'm just being honest out here. And then when it says right here, she'll open every hedge, she will sit down, she'll open her quiver against every arrow. That means that her vagina is going to be wide open to a lot of different suitors. A lot of different men are going to be up inside her. So that's why a daughter needs a strong father to help guide her from these temptations of life. Because like I said, a lot of these daughters, they just don't understand self-control. A lot of these young girls, they just, like I said, they get an inch, they take a mile. So you have to be able to guide your daughter into a way of purity and righteousness. She has to understand the importance of that at a young age, or else, she's going to injure herself, because she's going to end up damaging herself later on the road. And it's going to be very hard for her to be taken seriously by a man later as she gets older, and it's gonna hurt her a lot. All right. There's another scripture. Let's go, actually, while we're in Ecclesiasticus. Let's go to verse 42. This is a good scripture, or a series of scripture. Yeah, right here, verse 9. All right. Father's concern for a daughter. The father waketh for the daughter when no man knoweth, and the care for her taketh away sleep. When she is young, lest she pass away the flower of her age and be married, lest she should be hated. So talks about the anxiety that a man has over his daughter. He has anxiety just because he wants her to live a life that's going to be productive. He doesn't want her to just be giving herself her value to just a random man out here. So he gets up. He gets a lot of anxiety. A lot of men get anxiety when they have daughters because they understand the responsibility that it has. And in this society, they're not giving the authority that comes along with that responsibility. They're really kind of shunned away from, keeping their daughter in with that spiritual, that pure mindset. Verse 10, and her virginity, lest she shall be defiled, and gotten with child in her father's house, and having a husband, lest she should misbehave herself, and when she is married, lest she should be barren. So these are all things that will be cause shame in the house, and the daughter's life, and in the parent's life. If she be defiled, given child in her father's house, meaning she got pregnant in her father's house, that will cause a great shame, because that will mean that she didn't follow the protocol that was stipulated on her family, because she was supposed to be pregnant in her husband's house, because she, by that time she had a child, she would have been married. So if she was pregnant inside her father's house, that would have brought a big shame on the family. Or she have a husband and misbehave herself, so saying that she's not acting in a wifely duty, she's not acting in a wifely accord, and so that would put her at risk of being put away, and that will cause great shame, because as the scriptures say, if you put away your wife, you make her into an adulteress. So that would be very shameful on that family if that woman was sent back to her father's house by her husband. And when she is married, let she be barren. And also we know, if a woman was unable to have a child, that would cause a lot of shame on the woman, because she wouldn't be able to carry the next generation. And verse 11, keep a sure watch over a shameless daughter, lest she make thee a laughing stock to thy enemies, and a byword in the city, and a reproach among the people, and make thee ashamed before the multitude. So that's also just saying that, if she was shameless, she was basically, your daughter was, everybody knew her as she was a pass around. She was a slut. Everybody knew about her and her ways. They knew that she got around. So people would laugh at you because you couldn't keep your daughter under her self-control. That would be shameful toward the father, and that'd be shameful towards the family, because no one will want to take that family seriously in regards to either marriage or even business, because they will say, like, this man doesn't have control over his household because his daughter is wild. So in that time, it was just a shame. A lot of things that were called shame, and that would just, that would hurt a lot of the just the family dynamic. But all these protocols and these statutes have been lost upon our people. So we have to come back to these standards, these protocols in the scriptures, or else we're going to remain at the bottom, because we could talk all we want about quote unquote white supremacy, or trying to be better in regards to generational wealth and reparations and mental health, but until we get back to the family structure, especially how it's stipulated in scripture, we're going to always have these problems. So that's why it behooves brothers out here, you have to find a woman who has a very like mind to you. If you want to have a child in this world, the woman that you have a child with, y'all really have to be one mind, because a lot of women are stopping men from really being the man in the relationship, because they're so controlling. They want to control the relationship. You have, as a man, have to be with a woman who understands that her role is to be the mother and yours to be the father. You have to be the patriarch of your family, and you have to be with a woman who understands that. But a lot of women, they want to destroy the patriarchy, right? So that's why it's hard to find a woman out here to procreate with. And I recommend that your brothers not really procreate with those types of women, because it's going to cause problems. You have to have, if you are a farmer, you have the seed, and the woman is a garden, you put good seed and good soil. If you put good seed and defiled soil, meaning a defiled mind, you're going to grow up with a degenerate plant. You're going to grow up with a degenerate child. So you have to make sure that the woman's mind that you are implanting in is pure. So, but that's hard to find. So I understand it's hard out here, but brothers who have children, do your best to try to do your due diligence to raising your child and try to protect your child, especially your daughters. But even if you do the best that you can, even if you and the mother do the best you can, it's not a guarantee in this society that your daughter will, live an upright life. But hey, the only thing we can do is what we can do. There's no point in trying to, you know, trying to do what try to have anxiety over things that we can't control. At the end of the day, we just have to tell the Most High I did my best, and hopefully, things will all work out. All right, so that's all I got, man. It's a very interesting video. Y'all take care. Peace.